What other things would you say somebody should expect kind of going into having their home torn up?
I would say if you're having a kitchen where we're tearing out walls and potentially putting in beams, you're going to expect to find things in those walls that need to be moved and that will cost additional money. Sorry, hate to say that, but it's I would say 98% of the time that is going to be the case.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to another ACo Designer Chat. My name is Mia Farrell. I'm a designer at ACo, and I'm here to help you love where you live. And today I am joined by the project managers at ACo that make the magic happen when we start a remodel. Thank you guys for being here. I know you all have so much to do and so many places to be, so I really appreciate you taking the time to talk a little bit about what it looks like when we tear up somebody's house. It's very intrusive what we do, and just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what homeowners can expect and some of the things that we do to make people comfortable. So Mr. Cundiff, I'm gonna start with you as the most seasoned person at this table. Let's talk a little bit about what that looks like when we come into somebody's home and tear things apart.
Well, honestly, it can be pretty scary.
Yeah.
It's a big departure from what a lot of people are used to. I've been in construction for a long time and around it for longer. My dad was a construction manager. So to me, it's exciting. It's fun, and I try to infect our homeowners with that optimism because they just got done doing this fun design process, right, and we're starting to make it reality. It's scary for a minute, but it's about to start getting really fun.
Yeah, we always talk about the emotional roller coaster, right? And when we get into demo, there's some excitement that goes along with it, but then when we start taking things out, it's like, oh no, what are you doing? Like, this is the hub of my home. So what kind of things do we do going into a project to make people feel comfortable?
Really just explain the whole process. When we start demo, I give a good, clear idea of what that's going to look like. Usually say there's going to be a lot of noise, a lot of inconvenience, and just, paint the picture that way.
Yeah, for sure. We do have a tool as well, the website that homeowners get to log into so that they can see their schedule online. So they know what's coming, which is great. But I think that you guys do a really good job of getting out ahead of it and saying, okay, when we do this part of the process, there is going to be some noise, there's going to be dust, those kinds of things.
For sure.
At the pre-construction meeting, before we get started, what kinds of things do you guys feel are most important to hit on?
Cleaning that we do, that's important to a lot of homeowners. Sealing off the space, just going over major deadlines, what will happen, what throughout the process. So
yes, when we talk about sealing off the space, let's talk about that for a second. What kind of prep materials are we talking about?
So any of our walkways are covered in cardboard, taped through. We put up temporary walls across the space that we're not going to be in.
Like the plastic curtains.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, those are really helpful.
Yeah, and through the process, if they get damaged, we replace them. So, yeah.
Dogs really like to tear those down.
It's a challenge.
Yes, they do. And cats like
No,
to.
cats love to get down inside plastic.
Yeah, and climb. I'm sure it's like a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's see how high up I can get on this plastic wall.
Pre-con is a time that we talk about lots of other things, like what's going to make the project go smoothly for one customer is going to be very different from another customer, especially if they work from home,
That's a great
or if they
point.
have kids coming and going every day. We might have to make different arrangements for that situation versus another.
Sure.
So it's not like we're charging in and we're going to do it our way the whole time and you just have to make do. We're going to do our best to accommodate their lifestyle.
So every person's different, every project's different, every home is different, every family's different. And so in those scenarios where we're tearing up the hub of somebody's home, what kind of things can we do, especially for like a kitchen, right? What can we do to make sure that we are kind of figuring out a way to make them comfortable through that?
Help them figure out how they can set up a temporary kitchen.
Sure.
Put a range in a dining room, put the refrigerator in the dining room. So many people, the one big thing is like the sink.
Yeah.
And they end up using the bathroom sink or even a bathtub at times.
Absolutely.
But after about 2 or 3 weeks, all at once you start hearing, we're going out every night. We just aren't doing this anymore. They're tired.
Yeah, right. You can put so much effort in for so long before it's like, let's just go get some pizza. Why not? So it can be something that we just have to work through, right? To figure out where people are going to set up and where they're going to basically function as a family in their space through the whole process. And the process can be lengthy. How long is a typical project? I know that typical is hard to say in our world, but
yeah, your typical kitchen is 6 to 8 weeks is what we try to shoot for.
Yeah.
Based on some of the challenges we're facing now with cabinet lead times and things of that nature, or some of our suppliers don't necessarily honor a date that they've given us that we would have our material. We get past that 8 weeks, and sometimes we get into the 10 to 12 weeks.
Yeah, we have to kind of pivot and figure out how to get through.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
So I would say material right now is one of our biggest challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I think second is also finding the skilled labor to complete these tasks has been another challenge for sure.
Yeah. So would you say that things are kind of getting pushed out further than usual due to the fact that we can't, get people lined up as easily?
Yeah, there's things like that that are less normal that can push the schedule out, like material shortages that are unheard of. And there's starting to be a pinch on certain trades that just aren't as common that can create a longer queue for that skilled tradesman. But then there's stuff that can delay a project that's just always been the case. So like material limitations. We have a countertop that can be made in a 10-foot slab, but this is a 12-foot design, and it takes a lot longer to find veining that we really like.
Sure,
And you don't want to go with it until you're really happy with it, so it could push things out a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point too, because in the time and that you've invested in the project and the money you've invested in the project, you want it to be perfectly what you want in the end.
And we don't want to rush things.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like it's worth maybe another couple weeks to get,
if it means
to
that you
get
get the
exactly
perfect
what you
stone.
want.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that stone is one of those things too. You mentioned people doing dishes in a sink or a bathtub. The turnaround time on countertops is something that I think is another one of those emotional roller coaster down points, because you start to see things come together, you get really excited, and then there's a little bit of a turnaround time from the time we template.
Yeah, from the start of the project to basically we get to the time where we're ready to template for countertops, a lot happens, and then it stops.
Yeah.
Because after we template for countertops, we have to wait for that countertop to get installed before we can do anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of questions like, hey, is anything going to be happening while we're waiting for countertops? No, nothing. Nothing is happening.
One thing in those 2-3 weeks. But that might be one of those things that like people would say at the end of a project that if I had it to do over again, I would do this. So maybe on the front end, you could say if it's really important to you that you're not without a kitchen for very long, that you pay attention to this countertop is beautiful, but it might take 6 weeks to get this one.
Yeah.
So let's not build that into our project. Let's
Yeah.
maybe go with something that we know we can get a little faster.
Yeah, we've been trying to have a lot of conversations about availability of materials and things like that on the front end, because we know, that it has been a crazy time in our industry for the past few years, and we've had a lot of kind of mindset changes as we approach a project. So what other things would you say somebody should expect kind of going into having their home torn up?
I would say if you're having a kitchen where we're tearing out walls and potentially putting in beams, you're going to expect to find things in those walls that need to be moved, and that will cost additional money. Sorry, hate to say that, but it's I would say 98% of the time that is going to be the case.
Yeah, walls are there, they put things in them, right?
It could be that there's plumbing or wiring in there that we didn't know about, or we could open up a wall and find out that it's half eaten through by termites and that needs to be repaired.
Right.
Yeah.
These things all happen.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about change orders since you brought it up. Fun topic. Thanks for bringing it up. I think it's kind of inevitable, right, that we're going to come across things. Like I said before, every house is different.
Correct.
Every project is different. The scope of work of what we're doing of every project is different. So, what kinds of things other than, finding some wiring in a wall that have you guys come across in your time?
Sometimes you come across drains. A lot of times when people want to tear out bulkheads, there's always stuff in them. Sometimes every mechanical is in them. So drain lines, HVAC, electrical, usually 1, 2, or 3 are going to be in every bulkhead, and that can get pretty extensive work to move.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll open some stuff up and wonder what's holding that up. So we usually have to end up fixing somebody else's work.
Sure.
That has actually come up quite a bit for me. So
that's kind of a scary thing too, opening up a wall and saying, ooh,
for sure.
Who built this?
Well, and sometimes there are change orders that we come across where we get into the middle of a project and a homeowner realizes, I really think it would look better if we did this too.
I've changed my mind.
Yeah. That's going to happen. You're going to see things in reality and realize that maybe what you thought wasn't the case, or that you want to change direction.
Yeah.
That'll cause delays and everything, and it may cause
Sure.
additional costs, but it might be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said, you want to make sure you get exactly what you want at the end of this. And, we can only, do so many renderings, so many drawings, so many visualizations of what we're going to do. And we can only do so many scope reviews before we get into a project. We can only do so much in that time. We like to poke holes in bulkheads. We like to see if we can find some of that stuff ahead of time. But unfortunately, with the combined years of experience of all the people on our team, we don't have X-ray vision. We wish we did, so that we could know everything going into
awesome.
it. That would be great.
There's a whole industry of like product innovations trying to tuck mechanicals into walls better and make them more
Yeah.
thin. So
Yeah, so our change order guarantee is a helpful thing for people. The scope review is a helpful thing for people, but I think at the end of the day, going into a project knowing that there's a possibility that something could come up is a very realistic way to
Absolutely.
approach your project.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
like to be sunshine and rainbow sometimes, but at the end of the day, we're not going to lie to you and tell you that it's going to be dust free, that it's going to be really fun when everything's torn up. I mean, going out to eat is great, but
Right. But after about 3 weeks, they get really sick
Yeah.
and tired of that
Yeah.
too.
maybe I
it
just
starts
want to
be a budget
sandwich.
item too.
Yeah, I always make the joke when we're doing a pre-construction meeting. It's like, you've paid us to inconvenience you. You like me now, but you may not like me sometime down the road.
Right. I think it's good to kind of set that ahead of time, right? To say it's okay if you're frustrated with this process, because we know it's a frustrating thing to live through. Just talk to us. Come to us.
Absolutely.
We'll have the conversation. We'll work through it with you. We'll get you there.
Yes,
You guys do
absolutely.
such a great job of doing that with our homeowners and having those conversations. So any other challenges that you guys have seen in this kind of weird new reality that we're in?
For instance, appliance installation is something that we struggle with
Oh,
for a while.
yes,
and that
appliances.
was
Yeah, the appliance
Yeah.
delay is insane right
Yeah.
now.
some of it's just getting the machine.
Yeah.
And some of it's, we only have 2 guys on our install crews right now, and so we're scheduling 2 months out.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Right.
you're gonna have to wait.
So you almost have a kitchen.
Yeah.
I'm afraid, so you got it.
Yeah.
But there's workarounds for that. Sometimes
Yeah.
we have to find alternate sources of installation, or we just jump on it a lot earlier to get it on the schedule.
Yeah, or even just kind of putting those old ones back in place for the time being. Like, I know you're not super psyched about this fridge, but
No, we've done some
Yeah.
temporary, ranges
Mhm.
and things of that nature. So
yeah, and I know that we've done some temporary sink setups too recently. So what does that look like?
usually we have some old cabinets laying around where we can do that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's a piece of plywood with a drop-in sink, and
Yeah.
we hook up.
Better than nothing.
It is, yeah.
absolutely.
It's better than your bathtub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least
That's
you can
exactly
you can
right.
stand up while you're washing your dishes.
Yeah, you don't have to kneel next to a bathtub to get your plates clean.
Yeah.
That's so great. You guys do such a fantastic job. Anything else? I'm kind of thinking, as we get through a project, as we get towards the end, what kind of things happen towards the end of a project?
You're going to have usually 2 phases to plumbing and electrical. So usually towards the end, you're going to have the finishing phases of electrical and plumbing, which all the pretty stuff gets installed.
Sure.
And then after that, you're establishing your punch list to get all those little fine details buttoned up so you can wrap the project up. So usually at the end, there's a mad dash to get all those things done, because at that point, usually the client is ready for us to be out of their house. And I can respect that, and I understand
Yeah,
that. So
absolutely.
we usually, we're scrambling to get those items done.
It's like your client's in a hurry for you to leave.
Absolutely.
Just him.
Absolutely. Just me. Yeah, just me.
No, but that punch list is important, and I know that you guys kind of keep a running punch list as things happen and as the job goes on. And I encourage my homeowners to do the same. Like what they need to understand is that when they see something, it may just not be totally complete yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if there is something that they, as we get towards the end of a project, maybe there's some paint touch up, maybe there's
Well-
something that they can kind of point out and keep on their list.
Yeah, and what I always tell them is like I look at different things, and as individuals look at things differently,
Sure.
so they could see something that I'm not seeing. So
Right.
I'd like to see their list, because then we bring them together and make sure that everything gets handled.
Yeah, so when we get together for that substantial completion walkthrough where,
Right.
us as designers, we come back in and, kind of do that final walkthrough with you guys, with the homeowner, any other things that people should be aware of going into that meeting?
What we'll typically do is put a dollar amount to every item on that list, and then we multiply that times 2. And then that is the amount of money that we leave behind.
Sure.
To,
So that list is complete.
till we
Yeah.
finish the punch list, and then we collect the rest of the payment for the project.
Yeah, because we're substantially complete at that point. You can pretty much move back into your space. There's just, some little small things on the
Right.
list that we need to complete at that point. And it's important that they know that we're going to complete those items.
Right, yeah.
The amount of horror stories I've heard on the front end, I worked with this contractor, they didn't get the job done, they ditched me, that's just kind of our,
Well, I mean, I have that comment sometimes from people, how do I know that this is enough to convince you to come back? It's like, that is not what's convincing me to come back.
Right.
What convinces me to come back is the fact that I have 3 bosses that are going to be after me to make sure this job gets done.
Right.
And then there's this giant building here that we can't pack up in a truck and just make it disappear.
Yeah, you know where to find us. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again so much for being here. Is there anything else that you want to add as far as what homeowners should be aware of going into a project?
Well, one thing I wanted to add to part of the discussion was that we talked about customers who like to point out little things that maybe they're just not done yet, but let's talk through them and let's compare lists and keep up with that. We also have customers who are afraid to mention when something is concerning them.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't want to make waves or they don't want to upset anybody to get that input. We always welcome that input, because if you put it off until the end, like, it might be too late for us to do something about it.
Right.
Let's bring it up on a weekly basis, and let's go through, like, what are you worried about? How can I make sure you're up to speed on everything?
Yeah, because I think the worst thing is going into a punch list, and then all of a sudden you find out that they've had this concern, and you're tearing out drywall or doing something like that, something kind of invasive when you should be close to being done.
Right,
so
you could have handled it
It's better to have those
or
tough
have they just been
conversations
worried
up front.
about it for weeks, and you could have dealt with it earlier.
Yeah, I think that that's a very important point to make. We're all adults here. We understand that this is your home and you're going to have concerns. We're not going to have too big of an ego or too much pride to hear it if there is something that is maybe a little bit off that you want addressed. That's what we're here to do, right? Is to make it right. So that's a great point, Bill. Thank you. All right, well, thank you guys so much again for being here. You guys have been fantastic. You guys do such amazing work with our homeowners, and just love having you all on the team. So tune in next time.
Love you too.
You done.